As soon as the movie let out, there was a big gathering out in front of the theater, and everybody was talking about Pearl Harbor. Well, I immediately went home, and my father and mother were there. My brothers and sisters were congregated, and we all sat in the kitchen to discuss this dilemma.
Hi, I'm Danielle Romero. Thank you so much for being with me here on my channel, where we talk about American identity and family stories. And I'm starting a new series where I want to introduce you to my family, my ancestors, and take you kind of behind the scenes on what it's like to be a person who loves family history, who loves the American story, but isn't a genealogist. And I'm kind of navigating my way through my ancestors, the people who got me where I'm at and what their stories are. I hope that you could see glimpses of your family and your family story in this as well. One of the most important people I want to introduce you to is my grandfather. I have a really incredible video of him, and I didn't make it because I didn't realize until recently how important it is to record the elders in your family, record your family and have them sit down and tell you stories about their life, what they would know about their family, what their experiences were growing up. I wish I had done it sooner. But my dad's dad, Dominic, was in the Navy during World War II. He dropped out of high school. I'm going to let him tell this story. He dropped out of high school, though, after the bombing of Pearl Harbor. And so the New York State Military Museum did an interview with him, and he's a talker, so we're not going to watch the whole video, but they did an interview with him asking him about his experiences to try to preserve that history, and I am so eternally grateful that they did this. I cannot even tell you. So I want to introduce you to my grandpa Dominic and let him share a little bit about his story, and we can watch this together. And I'm excited because, you know, I love doing the scripted historical research videos, but my passion, my absolute love is just saving family history, knowing my family. And I feel some days I wake up and I feel like I'm running out of time to do that. And so I want to do that with you today. So let's jump over to that video. So here's my grandpa, Dominic. And it says he was a motor mechanic mate 3rd class. And so we're not going to watch the whole thing, but I do want him to explain a little bit about what it was like finding out that the Japanese had bombed Pearl Harbor and what it felt like to find that out in real time as a teenager. And his parents were from Italy. They naturalized, I think, maybe like 5 years before he was born.
Okay, ready?
Right.
All right. This is an interview at the New York State Military Museum, Saratoga Springs, New York, 23rd of August, 2004, approximately 1:30 p.m. Interviewers are Mike Russert and Wayne Clark. Could you give me your full name, date of birth, and place of birth, please?
My full name is Dominic E. Brignola. My place of birth is Troy, New York. And I joined the Navy.
When were you born, please?
I was born in 1925, February 3rd.
Okay. What was your educational background prior to entering service?
Well, I was a senior in high school, Troy High School. And at that time, quite a few people were, joining the service. And I wanted to join the Navy. And I had a little difficult time with my mother and father. And finally, she consented, and I joined the Navy.
Okay, I'm going to go back 1 second. Do you remember where you were and your reaction when you heard about Pearl Harbor? How did you hear about it?
I was attending a movie at the Proctor's Theater in Troy, New York. I think I can't recall, but that would be in 1941. That would take me back 3 years. That would be about 15 or in that area. And I was attending a movie. I can't remember the movie. But as soon as the movie let out, there was a big gathering out in front of the theater, and everybody was talking about Pearl Harbor. Well, I immediately went home, and my father and mother were there. My brothers and sisters were congregated, and we all sat in the kitchen to discuss this dilemma. And I can recall my brothers saying this war is going to be over in 6 months. And, of course, I didn't disagree with them because I didn't know much about the politics or the history that was behind it. But it went on for 4 years.
Yes, okay. All right. When did you enlisted in the Navy?
Yes.
When did you enlist?
I went in December 7th, 1941.
Why did you pick the Navy?
Well, I I had always an idea that I wanted to be in the Navy, even though my brothers were in the Army, one in the Air Force and one in the Medical Corps. And I always enjoyed the water and the sea, and I was more sympathetic to the Navy, even though a lot of my buddies were Marines and Army, and a few in the Navy. So it was that I had leaning toward the Navy.
Okay.
I just want to pause for a second. So my grandpa, I'm seeing him, I'm listening, but I'm also like having serious flashbacks. Right? He always had coupons in his pocket, like always had coupons. And he would leave them at my mom's house and then like, well, my parents' house in an envelope. And my mom would always graciously take them and then she like would throw them out because it was like for stuff she didn't buy. And I see he has on his gold chains, which is like an Italian cliche, I guess now, but he really wore them. I think he had a St. Joseph thing. I'll have to ask my dad who has that necklace. I think it was a St. Joseph because they're a very Catholic family. On all sides of my family, the Irish side, Catholic, the Creole side, Catholic, the Italian side, Catholic. And so that's another part of like my experience growing up is seeing these items and things around the house. Okay, so I wanted to show just in the family tree a little bit before I dig in on my grandpa. So my grandpa Dominic is here, and his parents were Francesco and really Elisabetta. She went by Elizabeth when she came to the United States. And this is, I really love this. It says, the three sons of Mr. and Mrs. Frank Brignola Francesco served today in the armed forces. And as my grandpa and his brothers, my grandpa is right here in the Navy. And one of the things that I thought was really strange was I've always known my grandpa as Dominic. My dad is named Dominic, and they actually almost named me Dominique. But on the New York State Birth Index, he's listed as Domenico. And I had someone tell me that, that is a derivative of Sunday in Italian, kind of like in Spanish, Domingo. But I had never heard of him going by that name, but it's right here. And so I don't know if it was a typo or if he went by an anglicized name his entire life and we had no idea. I need to ask my dad if he even knew that. And I think it just goes to show how little sometimes we even know about our own grandparents, our own parents. And I wanted to do a video about my grandpa Francesco. My dad actually spoke a little bit in an interview in person with me over Christmas about his grandpa, but his grandpa's story is really interesting. He naturalized, here's his naturalization. So he lived in Durisano, Italy. But during the naturalization process, he had to renounce forever all allegiance and fidelity to any foreign country or leader, including Victor Emmanuel II, the King of Italy, of whom he was now a subject. And he said he came to New York on or about the 5th day of April in 1904. And he had to say, I am not an anarchist, I'm not a polygamist, nor a believer in the practice of polygamy. And he became a citizen of the United States. And here is his signature right here, which is just really cool. Let's see here. My dad always told me that he was a tailor and he made really expensive, nice handmade suits, and that he was actually approached by what we call the Italian mob to work with him, and that he thought about it and he turned it down. But I have some questions about that. Not that I doubt that they approached him, because he was a Southern Italian living in New York and probably wanted to make some fresh suits for them, but whether or not you really can turn down the mob, and I've been curious about that, so I don't really know how to go about looking into that. And so his mom's family was from Campania. Dad was from Durisano, Italy, which is also southern Italy. And he went back and forth a few times to Italy, which again is surprising because that's a huge trip, probably a very expensive trip here. His dad's here, Francesco Brignola. It's Southern Italian, he's listed. So This is my grandpa, a little introduction to his family, and I would love to share some more stories about that. This is my grandpa's mom and some of the kids. I think this is my grandpa. So I'll have to check with my dad, but let me know what you think, and we'll talk soon.